Most creators are dying a slow death and they don't even know it. They're living life inside a cage of unconscious beliefs. I'm not good enough. Following dreams isn't realistic. Security is more important than passion. This cage is the conventional path. The locked up creator can live their entire life in this cage, never even realizing that it's there. But they feel the constraints through unfulfillment, the sense that something is missing, or even burnout. They think that's just how life is. Purely because most people choose to live life like this. If you're watching this with a day job, your creative projects on the side, and an ever-increasing feeling that something isn't right, this is for you. Now, being in this cage doesn't mean that there's no way out. There's a hole in the center of the cage. You can't see the bottom because it's pitch black, filled with uncertainty, risk, fear, and doubt. You have two options. Forever remain in the cage, never knowing your true potential, or taking a leap of faith through that hole to find everything you'll ever need. So, what's stopping you from taking that leap? Let us start with the story of Ben Fountain. Ben had a stable and good-paying job at a prestigious law firm, but it wasn't really his passion. He had always dreamt of becoming a fiction writer. So he often tried to write when he came home from work, but usually was too tired to do much. After a couple of years working for this law firm, he had enough, and he quit his job to pursue his dream of writing fiction full-time. On making this decision, Ben recalls, "I was tremendously anxious. I felt like I'd stepped off a cliff and didn't know if the parachute was going to open." It would take him 18 years to publish the short story collection Brief Encounters with Che Guevara that would forever establish him as a renowned writer. During those 18 years, he faced uncertainty, setbacks, fear, and even depression. But giving up was just never an option. He had listened to that inner voice that speaks from the heart. And once he accepted it as his true path in life, he couldn't imagine doing anything else. Most people would say that the driving force behind success is luck, but this is bullshit. Luck has got nothing to do with success. So, if it isn't luck, what is it that makes people like Ben so successful? It is an unrelenting passion for creating. They have devoted themselves to that passion with complete dedication. They don't care about comfort, they don't care about risks, they don't care about fear. All they care about is acting on their highest excitement, and that has rewarded them greatly. So why is the rest of us, generally speaking, not doing this? Because of the cage. The conventional path, in case you didn't know, it refers to the societal norm-driven life and career trajectories, aka the 9-to-5 life. It is said to be designed for stability, predictability, and social conformity. But it is also often criticized for being rigid, outdated, and potentially leading to unfulfillment. And even worse, burnout. Now, that doesn't sound very pleasant, but it's stable, it's secure, it's what you're supposed to do, right? Only you're a creator. In your spare time, you're working on the projects that actually matter to you, that make you feel alive. But your day job is demanding. By the time you get home from work, you're drained, and it starts to affect the time spent on your creative work. Now, I'm not saying that having a job on the side is inherently wrong. When you're starting out, you often need that stability. It's like a stepping stone. But the cage isn't the job itself, the cage is accepting that this split existence is all you'll ever have. It's giving up on a dream before you've even given it a real shot. But let's take a minute to explore what it looks like when you stay in that cage for too long. When you finish work on Friday, you feel excitement rise up. Finally, it is weekend and now you can do what you actually want to do, which is working on your creative pursuits, right? But you just spent a whole week working. Frankly, you're drained. So what do you likely end up doing? Doom scrolling on your phone, watching your favorite shows, playing your favorite games, going out to get drunk, anything to either feel more alive or numbed out so you forget the stress your day job is causing you. On the long term, you're counting down the days to your next vacation. That's when you can really relax. Not just for a day or two, but for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3. You need those vacations to recharge, to feel like yourself again. Because when you finally get back, you have to be ready to face all that stress and bullshit again. So what's really happening here? You're trading your autonomy for financial security. Your time is not your own, your energy is not your own, even your creative potential is not your own. You're giving it all away for a paycheck, for the promise of stability, for the illusion of safety. A recent article from Forbes proclaimed that 66% of American employees have experienced some sort of burnout in 2025. But among 25 to 34-year-olds, the age when most creators are trying to make it, that number jumps to 83%. That's fucking insane. They relate those numbers to mental and emotional stress and lack of work-life balance. But these don't sound like causes to me. They sound more like effects. Burnout doesn't manifest because you're working too hard. Burnout manifests because you're working too hard on something that's not aligned with your true self. The longer you deny your connection to your true self, to your passion, to your purpose, the closer you get to inevitable burnout. Don't trade your aliveness for comfort and security. It just isn't worth it. Now, how do I know? Because I took that leap of faith into the hole at the center of the cage. Only I never really felt like I had a choice, in the sense that my desire for an autonomous life is so strong that trading my autonomy away for comfort and security was just never really an option. So every day now that I wake up, I face risk, I face fear, I face doubt, I face uncertainty. But what have I gained? Everything. Every day I get to do what I love. And not because I reached the point where I can live off the income that I make from my creative pursuits. Because that's not even sustaining me for 1%. No, it's because I've built my whole life around gaining as much autonomy as I possibly can. Autonomy that enables me to work on my passion, not somebody else's. Each month I only spend money on the things I truly need, and I have the cheapest housing arrangement possible. I work the amount needed to make it each month with only a little extra on top, just in case. All the time that is left, I spend on making my dream a reality, which essentially is turning my passion into a job. And of course, this video is part of that journey. Essentially, it all comes down to this quote by Jim Carrey. It is better to risk starving to death than surrender. If you give up on your dreams, what's left? So far, you've been avoiding the hole in the center of the cage in fear of chasing the life you want and failing. But the danger isn't failing. The danger is that you'll succeed at living a life you never truly wanted to live. So are you willing to start listening to that inner voice of passion and trust that it will guide you towards a life of fulfillment? Or will you keep playing it safe by choosing to live a life of mediocrity and inevitable burnout? That choice is where it all starts. But how do you make that choice and what happens next? You will never take that leap of faith through the hole in the cage if you don't believe, even just for a little, that it will lead to a success story. And it's beliefs that we'll have to focus on for a minute. Why? It's beliefs that shape reality, not reality that shapes beliefs. Because whatever you believe to be true, you experience. Say that as a kid you made a drawing you were really proud of. You showed it to some classmates and they started laughing and saying how bad it was. That single experience is enough to make you doubt your creative abilities for a lifetime. At some point you are no longer even aware of it and you keep telling yourself that drawing is pointless because you're not good at it anyway. If you continue to believe you're bad at drawing and thus it's not worth ever trying to pick up a pencil again, then that is your reality. But if at some point you would question that belief and you do pick up that pencil, you may discover a passion that was long forgotten. Soon you find yourself drawing daily, and although your skill isn't great, it brings you great joy. You might find yourself asking, why did I ever stop drawing in the first place? In other words, change the belief, change the reality. Let me give you another example, one from my own life. From age 20 to 26, I was plagued by an existential crisis. Every day I fought it as best as I could, never accepting it, not even for a second. But after 6 years, I finally made a decision to accept that it was there, and paradoxically, that acceptance was the thing that dissolved it. Put differently, I had spent 6 years believing that the crisis was something I had to fight, that if I gave into it, I would lose. But the fighting itself was the problem. The belief that I had to resist was the belief that kept me trapped. The moment I stopped fighting, I discovered that the crisis had no power of its own. What I'm talking about here, the change from fighting to acceptance, is a shift in perspective. And the sequence is as follows. A new perspective leads to a new action. The new action creates new evidence, and the new evidence updates the beliefs. For example, you get rejected by a client. The old perspective was, I'm not good enough. But the new perspective becomes, this wasn't the right fit. That leads to a new action, which is you pitch to someone else without the weight of the last rejection. It brings you new evidence, which is they say yes. And that leads to a new belief, which is the right client does exist for me. And using my depression story from just a minute ago, you experience an existential crisis. The old perspective is, I'll have to keep on fighting this. The new perspective is, what if I let it be? It leads to a new action, which is you stop fighting it. It gives you new evidence, the crisis dissolved. Which leads to a new belief, acceptance is the path through. You don't change the belief directly, you change what you're willing to see, act on that new view, collect new evidence, and the belief updates itself. Now, there are 3 external perspective shifts in terms of relationships worth addressing that could help you on your path to becoming an autonomous creator. First one is your relationship with time. Time is our most valuable resource, and yet most of us trade it away as if it's nothing. But time isn't something you endure, it's something you invest. You have to look at time like this. It is the resource you trade for the life that you want. So what life do you want? And how much of your time are you willing to invest in that dream? Your relationship with money. Money is how we measure security. Have enough money and you know that any current and future costs will be covered. That is certainly nice, but are you really okay with trading your dream with that of someone else? Because that's what's happening when you work for someone else. Finally, your relationship with others. The path of the autonomous creator can be quite lonesome. This is because on average, there will be very little people who relate with you. People that remain in the cage don't understand the people who've jumped. You'll have to remember that you don't need anyone's approval, not even that of your friends and family. The only thing you'll ever truly need is a deep trust in yourself and the trust that life will support you once you start following your passion to the best of your ability. And if a little voice in your head just said, but I don't have that trust, then let me help you get it. There are 3 steps you can take no matter who you are or where you are. First step is find your direction. Some of you may know exactly what your passion is. It may not just be writing, but writing novels in a dystopian sci-fi setting. The more specific you can get, the better. Bonus points if you can also find a deeper why behind your passion. But for others, finding your passion may not be that easy. And that is actually okay, because you don't need to start with passion, you can start with curiosity. That's precisely what I did during my depression period. When life seemed dull and meaningless, passion was nowhere to find. However, curiosity was there, as it will always be there. My curiosity led me to making terraria and caring for bonsai trees, and the latter is still a hobby of mine now 10 years later. But these things didn't just come knocking at my doorstep. Curiosity is often found out there and not inside your mind. Clarity comes from action, not from thought. You don't need a full map to start this journey, you just need a direction. Step 2, clear a path. Fear is information. It shows you where your limiting beliefs are because fear stems from limiting beliefs. So for this step, I'd like you to really take the time to find and write down all of your fears. Once you feel confident that you have about all of them written down, I'd like you to identify the underlying beliefs. To give you some examples, I fear being judged could be because of I need others' approval to be valuable. I fear failure could be if I fail, it means that I'm not good enough. And I fear losing control could be I need certainty before I can act. Fears only have power when they operate in the dark. The moment you bring them into the light of awareness, they start to lose their grip. Author Michael Singer from the book The Untethered Soul uses the metaphor of a thorn. You can either protect the thorn, which is building your whole life around avoiding what triggers the fear, or you can remove it. Awareness is what lets you see the thorn clearly enough to pull it out. Or as Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You will always move toward what you believe benefits you and move away from what you believe does not. Even bad choices can make sense when you see the underlying belief. So when you go through this list of beliefs, ask yourself, what do I believe would happen if I didn't choose this? Question these beliefs. Are they really true? Then affirm. This is a belief, not a truth. I can act despite it. Step 3. Take the first step. Now that you have your passion or curiosity figured out and you've identified the beliefs that held you back, it's time to return to time. Pun intended. There's no need to immediately quit your job to become a full-time creator. But what you do have to do is allocating a portion of your time to work on your passion. No matter how busy your schedule is, there will always be time to work on this because it's a matter of priority. If you're serious about becoming a full-time creator, you will find the time, and you will find that time daily. And I don't mean that in a strict mentor kind of way, but in a I fully believe you can do this kind of way. So I want you to make a promise to yourself and keep it. For 30 days, you will spend a portion of your time working on your passion, or again, on actively seeking out curiosity. Preferably 30 minutes, but honestly, if you're really only able to set aside 10 minutes every day to work on this, then that'll do as well. Because what's important is 1, that you make this a habit, and 2, that you rekindle your excitement for working on your passion. Claim this time, block it, protect it, whatever you need to do. Because although your life doesn't depend on it, your life satisfaction does. So take that leap of faith, your future self will thank you for it. I hope you found this video useful. If so, feel free to like, comment or subscribe. Or you could subscribe to my Substack, where I post weekly newsletters that go deeper into topics similar to this one, link in the description. And if you'd like to watch another video here on YouTube, I suggest you watch this one here, where I give you 5 reasons why world building is the ultimate cure for creative block. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.